Vauxhall mõømý is a small MPV based on the Corsa Supermini with a clever rear seating arrangement that helps you get the most out of its generous interior space. Well constructed from sturdy materials and both comfortable and responsive on the road, it's a very accomplished package. Introduced back in spring 2003, the Vauxhall mõømý is a Supermini MPV that's gone about racking up some very respectable sales. Now, a Supermini MPV, as the name suggests, is a small hatch with a hefty added dose of versatility. So much so, in fact, that you question why people still buy conventional Superminis, given the modest price premium demanded by cars of this kind. I can only think it's a style thing, Supermini MPVs having by their very nature to be rather boxier than conventional Superminis. In the mõømy's case, it might also be because it's based on the second generation Corsa Supermini rather than the current one, so it's slightly less light on its feet. Now, neither of those things should really matter to likely family buyers. The mõømý was facelifted in 2006 and a frantic and slightly pointless VXR high performance model added to the top of the range. Now, the mõømý drives very well for a small MPV. The compact tall shape leads you to believe that you're going to get a sort of leaning sensation when it's cornering, but in actual fact it's very controlled. In the range-topping VXR performance version you get a stiffened suspension, but the standard models corner very flatly and in a very controlled way, and most will prefer this to the stiffer setup that you get in the VXR. Providing the power are 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8 litre petrol units, as well as a 1.6 litre turbo in the VXR. If you want a diesel, there's a choice between 1.3 and 1.7 litre units, and the 1.3 litre engine, the CDTI in particular, is a very good match for this family focused car. The entry-level 1.4 litre petrol engine manages the kind of performance you might be expecting. 13.9 seconds to 60 is the 0 to 60 sprint time. The diesel is a lot more lethargic, taking 16.6 seconds to 60, although it doesn't feel that slow thanks to the high torque output, the really great pulling power that you get from that engine. And the 1.7 litre diesel manages a similar trick, although mind you, at just over 12 seconds, its 0 to 60 time is only bettered really by the 1.8 litre petrol in the VXR. Being based on the platform of the Corsa Supermini, the mõømý is of course a good deal less spacious than Vauxhall's volume MPV, the 7-seat Zafira, which is based on an Astra family hatch. At around 4,042mm in length, it's a tad shorter than the Astra, but the wheel at each corner stance and the high roofline mean that the General Motors designers have been able to create something supremely spacious for the size, and the flex space seating system means it's very versatile as well. Now, most Supermini makers will tell you that their products can swallow 5 adults, but the reality is that you wouldn't want to go very far in most of them with 4 other full-grown people. Now, the mõømý is slightly different. It's got one of the widest, if not the widest, shoulder measurement for rear seat passengers in its class. And though I still wouldn't want to go to John O'Groats in this car with 4 other full-grown people, with 2 children, like my daughters Ellie and Amy here, it's really not too bad. Now, the real benefit of all this shoulder width is when you're travelling with 4 rather than 5 on board. The middle part of the back seat folds flat into the footwell here, leaving the outer 2 seats free not only to go backwards and forwards, sorry there, but also to slide left and right on runners, making the mõømý feel really very spacious indeed. But why stop there? Vauxhall have equipped the mõømý with the facility for all the seats to be folded flat, freeing up a total of 1,300 litres of space. And even with all the seats in place, there's 560 litres available. Prices for most mainstream models in the range lie in the £11,000 to £15,000 bracket, very slightly above what you'd pay for comparable models like Renault's Modus, Nissan's Note and Skoda's Roomster. but it's likely that any slight differences would in any case be soaked up by Vauxhall dealers' legendary willingness to sharpen their pencils. When comparing the mõømý to its rivals, it's worth checking out the availability of many big car features that you may not find in some competitors. The adaptive forward lighting system, for example, where the headlights move with the steering, giving you better visibility at night. The power release tailgate, Bluetooth compatibility for your mobile phone. Check what your chosen trim level offers. The smallest diesel, and the one that's proved most popular, is the 1.3 litre CDTI with 75 PS. That's the unit that I'm driving here. Now, this manages 55 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle, but on a longer run you should nudge closer to 66 miles to the gallon. And even in stop-start city traffic, you should get no worse than 42 miles to the gallon, so that's pretty good. Compare that to the 44 miles to the gallon that you get from the 1.4 litre petrol, and this diesel's advantage in running costs is obvious, although you do need to bear in mind that you'll need an £800 premium to upgrade to one from a petrol 1.4. The second most economical mõømý is not surprisingly the other diesel model, the 100 PS 1.7 litre diesel that manages 53 miles to the gallon. The VXR can only make 36 mpg. The mõømý feels well built throughout and should stand the test of time well. As a less common and more practical alternative to the Corsa, it should perform pretty well on the used market too. Insurance groupings range from Group 3 for the entry-level 1.3 litre diesel and 1.4 litre petrol to 12 for the VXR. CO2 emissions for the 1.3 litre diesel and 1.4 litre petrol that most owners will choose range from 135 for the diesel to 148 for the petrol. The Vauxhall mõømý was a winner the day it was launched, and it still is a favourite of mine and Ellie's and Amy's. That's despite the onset of tougher competition these days. You have to admire the car's build quality and the amount of space it crams into what is a relatively compact package. Vauxhall's Flex 7 seating system remains one of the most sensible and usable solutions on the market, freeing up a lot more space than you might expect. And the little Vauxhall's a tidy performer on the road as well. If you're looking for a small 5-seater MPV, this mõømý still needs to be near or at the top of your list.